is Dr. Mark Del Mastro, and Dr. Del Mastro is the chair of the Department of Hispanic Studies at the College of Charleston, executive director of Sigma Delta Pi, the National Collegiate Hispanic Honor Society, a position he has held since 1997. Dr. Del Mastro will explain Archer Huntington's special relationship with Sigma Delta Pi in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of Huntington's appointment as Sigma Delta Pi's honorary president. So we not are only honoring the Huntingtons on their 3-in-1 day, but we have something special in addition to that. So thank you very much for your attendance today. After the presentation by Dr. Del Mastro, we will have our usual drawings and our cake and champagne and our celebration for the Huntingtons for their legacy that they left us here in South Carolina.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank especially Joan Crow, the president of the Friends of Huntington Beach State Park, also the Robin Salmon. She's in the back. I heard your wonderful talk this morning. She's the vice president for collections and curator of sculpture of Brook Green Gardens. Elizabeth Moses, the interpretive ranger of Atalaya, and also Karen Korsnewski, who's vice president of the Friends of Huntington Beach State Park. I'm especially grateful because this is quite ironic. I don't know how many of you have visited this park or Atalaya before. How many of you have visited Atalaya before? Let me see your hands. Wonderful. My parents, like maybe some of you, retired to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina several years ago. So we've been, my family, which is here, and I have been visiting them for many years and also coming to Huntington Beach State Park. Whenever Atalaya, we went to the beach. And one rainy Saturday, about 2 years back, we saw the sign about tours of Atalaya. My wife said, you know, I've read about that, and I think our young daughters might be interested. Why don't we take a look? I said, all right, what the heck? Let's go check out Atalaya. And I was both amazed and embarrassed. And why was I embarrassed? Well, I had no idea that there was this wonderful historic gem right in our backyard here in South Carolina. Of course, I'm a Hispanic Studies professor at the College of Charleston, so there's an automatic connection here, and especially with Archer Huntington, which I'm going to explain in a moment. And knowing that there was this monument that was inspired by Spain, that was designed and built by an individual who was actually the 4th honorary president of the very organization that I oversee and have overseen since 1997, made it particularly embarrassing for me. But it's also a wonderful revelation because it has, of course, prompted us to visit Atalaya many times, of course, giving me this wonderful opportunity to talk to you, and also forced me to do a little bit of research on the connection with Sigma Delta Pi and Archer Huntington. Do we have any members of Sigma Delta Pi here? Wonderful! ¿Y cuándo fuiste iniciada? ¿Cuándo fuiste iniciada? I just asked her when she was inducted into Sigma Delta Pi. 60. Pues eso no traduzco, no se preocupe. I told her I wouldn't translate the year she was inducted. Sigma Delta Pi is the National Collegiate Hispanic Honor Society. We're the largest foreign language honor society in the United States. We were founded in 1919 by a graduate student named Ruth Barnes at the University of California, Berkeley. We have since grown to 583 chapters at 583 different colleges and universities across the country, and we have currently over 170,000 members. And we are right now headquartered at the College of Charleston, thanks in large part to the Dean of Languages, Cultures, and World Affairs, who was successful in moving me from the Citadel, where I was 18 years, and of course moving me over to the College of Charleston, also transferred the national headquarters of Sigma Delta Pi. We're delighted to be there, and I'm delighted to be here with you and speaking today. Let me give you a little bit of background to the Archer Huntington connection with Sigma Delta Pi, which is a bit controversial. I'm not sure that some of the more seasoned historians here of Archer Huntington are familiar with this interesting connection. Dr. Levitt O. Wright, who was the first national president of Sigma Delta Pi and was actually appointed in 1931, was a professor at the University of California, Berkeley. And it was his idea to establish this honorary president title for Sigma Delta Pi in order to give special recognition to those individuals who have distinguished themselves in making great contributions to Hispanism. That is, the culture and history and the language of Spain and Latin America. And when he conceived this, he also had in mind 3 individuals who would be the inaugural appointees. And they were Juan Cebrián, who was a wealthy engineer from Madrid and had become an American citizen and an outstanding benefactor of the University of California, Berkeley. And he also had greatly encouraged the dissemination of Hispanic culture. Dr. Tomás Navarro Tomás, who was also a renowned Spanish academician at the time and a member of the Spanish Royal Academy. And Dr. John Driscoll Fitzgerald, who was a native of Newark, New Jersey. Do we have anybody here from New Jersey? Okay. Dr. Fitzgerald was a native of Newark, New Jersey. He was also a member of the Spanish Royal Academy and an internationally recognized Hispanic scholar who had taught at Columbia University, the University of Illinois, and at the University of Arizona. Dr. Wright wrote that he had actually made the selection of honorary presidents prior to actually becoming national president in 1931. A bit presumptuous on his part, but very confident that he was going to hold that post. And during this time, on May 15, 1931, Dr. Fitzgerald, who I referred to before, who was in the scope of Dr. Wright to become one of the honorary presidents, had wrote Dr. Wright, thanking him for the honor. And this was on May 15, 1931. And this is the first mention in Sigma Delta Pi correspondence of Archer Huntington. And I quote, "So highly do I esteem the honor you have done me in making me one of 3 honorary presidents, that I'm going to confess to you that I hope that that list will be considered practically permanent. In many organizations that I know of, honorary presidents are permanent. The American Association of Teachers of Spanish elected Cebrián and Huntington, referring to Archer Huntington, honorary presidents, and their names have never been up for re-election. I think it might be well to add Huntington's when the formal slate is made up. It would also be well to have a clause in the new Constitution stating that there shall be 4 honorary presidents elected for life." Fitzgerald was very persistent with the idea of his friend being named, who was Archer Huntington, honorary president. So he had used several justifications, one of which I had already mentioned was the fact that Archer Huntington had already been named honorary president of the American Association of Teachers of Spanish. Also the fact that in June 1931, Archer Huntington had been inducted as an honorary member of Sigma Delta Pi at Hunter College, CUNY, the City University of New York. And in addition, we know he was a very close friend of Huntington, hence his motivation to have him recognized. And in a December 11, 1931 letter, Fitzgerald wrote then National President Dr. Wright, again saying the following: "My feeling is, however, we should elect Huntington immediately. If that appeals to you, you might send whatever shingle you care to send to Mr. Huntington in my care, since he is here in Tucson at present because of his wife's health. If I may use as a model what you did in my case, you would have his shingle inscribed as the following: Archer Milton Huntington, honorary member of Kasai chapter, Presidente Honorario Nacional, which means National Honorary President. And date it as of the day of your own action, which is what you did with mine. I shall be glad to pay for the shingle if you approve of this action." End of quote. And despite the determination of Fitzgerald, the President, Dr. Wright, wrote back to him the following: "Replying to yours of December 11th and February 19th, I am very glad to know of your interest in Mr. Huntington as a possible honorary president of the Society. Your suggestion opens up the whole subject, and I shall be as frank with you as you are with me. When I took things over in the fall of 1930, I had to make several decisions because there was no one with whom to consult. One was concerning honorary presidents, and I decided on a small list, preferably one Spanish scholar, one American scholar, and one non-academic Hispanophile. I did not decide in how long they should hold office, and have preferred not to open up the discussion, the subject for discussion, lest I stir up feelings. I have had in my mind, possibly for Mr. Cebrian's place, or possibly as an additional honorary president, either Mr. Huntington or Dr. Del Amo of Los Angeles, possibly both. However, it is all too patent that they are both rich men. In addition to being devoted friends of Spanish scholarship, and are we going to go on record as favoring the election of rich men? If we do so, is it because we expect them to favor us financially? Should the whole question of honorary presidents be opened up and an election be held by mail for those who are to be invited to accept such positions? Again, is it to be our policy that honorary presidents of the American Association of Teachers of Spanish shall be honorary presidents of our own society? I should be very grateful for your frank replies to these inquiries, and should like to know whether you would not think it preferable to let matters stand as they are for the present, rather than expose ourselves to possible trouble. I do agree with you that it would be most desirable to have Mr. Huntington elected, or should I say, chosen. For if we open it up to election, that will at once raise the question as to how the first three were chosen. And of course, he was very concerned by the fact that he had unilaterally, selected the inaugural three honorary presidents. On March 5th, 1934, Fitzgerald, again one of the original three honorary presidents, answered Wright's arguments, and again proposed that he appoint Archer Huntington immediately, he doesn't back down, just as the first three honorary presidents were chosen, and in light of the fact that the new Constitution governing appointment limits had not yet been written. But Wright refused to yield. In 1937, Cebrian, who was one of the original honorary presidents, died. And on December 1st, 1937, and upon Wright's request, Fitzgerald wrote Huntington a formal invitation, apologetically explaining that it was not possible to appoint him when the inaugural three were chosen, because it was at that time Huntington not a member of Sigma Delta Pi. Of course, that was kind of a lame excuse explaining to him why 6 years had transpired and he wasn't named honorary president, but that's all I had. Huntington accepted the appointment without delay that same month in 1937. And of course, we know that given this policy, which was held up until 1994, it was the leadership's philosophy that we should only have three honorary presidents. We have since changed that, but that was held for a total of 63 years, quite firmly. At this time, I would like to recognize Dr. David Cohen. He is the Dean of the School of Languages, Cultures, and World Affairs, who has joined us today, and also thanking him again for moving Sigma Delta Pi's national headquarters to College of Charleston. I'd just like to ask him to join me just for this special presentation, and I know that Brenda Majors, on behalf of the park, is going to come forward and accept this commemorative plaque.
Okay.
This is the 75th anniversary of Archer Huntington's appointment as Sigma Delta Pi honorary president, and in commemoration and on behalf of the National Executive Committee of Sigma Delta Pi, it's my pleasure to present you with this commemorative plaque.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor.
I consulted with the National Executive Committee this past week on an additional special recognition. There is something that is called the Order of the Discoverers. We have two very highly distinguished recognitions in the society. One is the Order of the Discoverers, the other is the Order of Don Quixote. There's only been one other individual in the history of our organization that was recognized posthumously. And it is my pleasure to say that Archer Huntington has been approved for this posthumous recognition today, and it is his induction into the Order of the Discoverers. So if I could ask Brenda to come up once again. On behalf of the Executive Committee of Sigma Delta Pi, the National Collegiate Hispanic Honor Society, it is my pleasure to initiate Archer Huntington posthumously into the Order of the Discoverers. With this plaque, I also have a special pin that he would have worn as a member. What's interesting about this pin is that it was decommissioned several years ago for reasons I won't get into, but I still have them on inventory. For special occasions like this, I think it's most appropriate, especially I hope for a public display here at the park, along with the other two commemorative plaques.
Thank you very much.
And I assume that Archer Huntington's induction as an honorary member back in 1931 does not have the pin, at least to our knowledge, available. So I also have the membership pin that he would have worn as a member that I'd like to present to you for display at the park as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And the quotes from the correspondence that I cited are found in A Brief History, which was written back in 1994 by one of our past presidents, T.Earl Hamilton, and I have tagged the different areas in the book where the correspondence referring to Archer Huntington are found, and hopefully you can have that available in your park as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it, I guess taking champagne or whatever.
Okay, you still have to be quiet. We are getting ready to do the drawing, so